According to the FDA, GMOs are ensured that they are safe to the public and should not have any impact on the consumer. But why don't we disclose GMOs on product labels? Another thing to point out is that GMOs have started this green revolution that could evidently save billions of lives from starvation, but why don't we pursue the research required for it? Today I'm going to inform you about GMOs and get to the specifics of why they are significant. I want to point out of all the controversies and benefits that they provide to future society. All my research has been correlated with university research and official World Health organizations. Um, Now, by the end of my speech, my goal is for you guys to learn more about GMOs and understand why they are important. Now, I want to begin to talk to you about why GMOs are significant. Now, let's first understand what GMOs are. GMOs, the basic definition is genetically modified organisms, which are essentially organisms of plants and animals whose genetic makeup has been altered to be more desirable. Genetic engineers have the ability to pick specific genetic codes that could be crossbred to create or add to existing plant or animal traits. GMOs have plenty of benefits but also have various unknown side effects on the environment and humans. Currently, engineers have the ability to create entirely different species through genetic engineering. The technology is often called modern biotechnology or gene technology, sometimes also recombinant of DNA technology. Uh, GMOs are something that have been around for years, but scientists have consistently been doing research on it and have progressed to discover new things, such as new plants and new animals. Now, since that we have been using it for so long, they are used in a lot of our products and food that we did not even think about. This is not to scare anyone, but we all consume GMOs without even realizing it. Now, this video is from the FDA website and basically shows you the multiple GMO crops that are made in the US. Uh, Let me show you the video.
What GMO crops are grown and sold in the US? Well, there's corn, like me, soybeans, canola, sugar beets, and cotton. Typically, we're ingredients in certain foods. GMO alfalfa, corn, soybeans, canola, and cotton are used as animal food. And while you won't find many GMOs in the produce section, there are versions of GMO apple, summer squash, potato, and papaya in a few markets. Feed your mind with more GMO knowledge on FDA's website.
Okay, so that was my visual aid. I wanted to show you this video just to point out all the crops that are fairly common in our society and probably have tried, if not one, which makes you exposed to GMOs. Now that we're all on the same page of what a GMO is, let's get to why people see GMOs as a bad thing. GMOs can be seen as risky or controversial just because they have unknown consequences on humans and the environment. The FDA ruled out they are safe to the public and environment, but there is no proof or evidence to prove that. The FDA really wants to ensure that even though they don't have strong evidence to prove that they are safe with no future consequences, it is really impossible to prove something that is in the future without testing the product. People see this as a safety concern and are generally switching to more natural options that avoid the use of GMOs. Another thing that GMOs use are strong pesticides and herbicides that are usually harmful to nearby wildlife and plants. Now, according to Dedra Bierfonsky, GMOs are harming the wildlife of birds, soil organisms, and insects in the area of the crops. She also points out that they reduce biodiversity, they pollute water resources, and are unsustainable. This is another example of why they are not favored to be used because they have consequences are already, and that is on the environment. Lastly, they're also controversial just because FDA does not require them to be labeled or disclosed on products, which makes people really skeptical about what they're eating and what is in their produce. People think it should be required to be labeled and if they use GMOs on the crops because they don't want that in their food. The FDA explained that GMOs are not really significant to be put on the label just because they're not potent enough to be dangerous to the public. Um, Thus, making by 2022, They will be requiring any potent pesticides and herbicides to require them to be labeled on food and crops. Now that we have the idea of what GMOs are and what they could be seen negative as, let's take a look at why they could be seen as positive and beneficial. Um, what are the benefits of GMOs? Another reason why GMOs are beneficial is that they could be essentially get rid of diseases and pests that are usually in the crops. It makes it that parasites and bugs disappear with the use of pesticides and herbicides. The FDA emphasizes that with the use of GMOs, it could be seen as safer food for the public. Um, Now, with that, GMOs have the ability to make an increase on crop yields, which means more food at a cheaper price. GMOs also make it so that we can grow more crops on a less amount of land because it requires less energy and resources. According to uh, according to Cawthron, it is estimated that we can grow 82.36 million tons of more crop yield. That is extremely beneficial to underdeveloped countries that make food inexpensive and unaffordable. This is also improve only underdeveloped countries, but people that are from poor communities that struggle to put food on the table. Helen Cawthron states that Chinese rice farmers have implemented this surplus grain in the 90s, and it basically shows that during that time, the dense population in China was expected to not be able to provide for all the people. And so basically, GMOs proved them wrong and saved billions of people from starving and essentially started the Green Revolution for other countries. Now, this shows us the positive side of GMOs and why they're important to other countries and could evidently solve our world hunger problem among the other countries such as Yemen and Middle Eastern countries that are struggling to survive. Overall, we could see how GMOs could be seen as good or bad for the public. And in conclusion, we covered what essentially is a GMO and why they're controversial and all the benefits they could provide to future society. We could see that GMOs have the potential to save billions, but also have the future unknown consequences for humans and the environment. Thank you guys for listening. Have a nice day.